Hi. Yeah, that lighting's good enough. I'll go with that. Hi, it's Alison Arngrim in the living room again. Cookie. A cookie. I have snacks. I have, these are the Milano milk chocolate. Oh, the milk chocolate Milanos. I haven't had those in ages. I forget how they are, even. I have iced tea. But wait, I have milk, too. Oh, that's good. What day is it? Wait, where am I going? Hi, what day is it? It is. We know what day it is, don't we? Because it's May 8th. It's May 8th. We know what May 8th. Well, besides being Coconut Cream Pie Day, I like coconut cream pie. Have a Coke Day. I don't have any more Coke. I'm out. Student Nurse Day. Military Spouse Appreciation Day. Oh, yes, that would be very important. Provider Appreciation Day. I should thank my husband for having a real job. Yes. It's May 8th. And do we all know what May 8th is? It's Melissa Gilbert's birthday. Yes, it is. It's Melissa Gilbert's. I'm going to put my bonnet on for that one. Woo! It is. It's Melissa Gilbert's birthday. She's younger than me, though. Oh, and we go, oh, she's 56. She's so much younger than me. So, Melissa Gilbert, it is her birthday today, and as we used to sing when we were kids, it was happy birthday to you, you live in the zoo, you look like a monkey and smell like one too. Happy birthday! Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Pogo from Cabengo. Love you, love you. Stay in the Catskills. Stay in the cabin. Stay in the cabin. Stay in the cabin in the woods. Yes, stay. You and hubby stay with what do you got? Ducklings, chickens. Get chickens. Just get chickens now. I heard clucking the other day, but then they're just a little far for that. But they stay with the chickens and the hubby in the cabin in the woods where it's safe. It's safe. So there you are. Happy birthday. We're reading, and we are reading. As I said, things are just getting scary because it's winter. It's winter again in Walnut Grove, Little House in the Prairie Land. They were not in Walnut Grove in real life very long. Nowhere as long as on the show where she's like grown up. I mean, she actually, the whole Almanzo, that was like all in South Dakota. That didn't even happen in Minnesota. Almanzo wasn't even there. So, but in this book, it sounds like they're in Walnut Grove for longer than I think they were in real life. Because it's winter again, and didn't we have like 3 Christmases and 2 summers for the locusts? I'm losing track. It sounds like she was there for years. And she was a little tiny girl, and now she's talking about being a big girl, and I'm like, I'm so confused. Okay. The timelines are like totally, woo, with these books. They're not yet. So look, keeping house. We're going to do keeping, which sounds nice, but I have a feeling it's going to be terrifying and involve freezing to death. Now, in the daytimes, Pa was driving the wagon up and down Plum Creek and bringing load after load of logs to the pile by the door. Good idea. He cut down old plum trees and old willows and cottonwoods, leaving the little ones to grow. He hauled them and stacked them and chopped and split them into stove wood till he had a big wood pile. With his short-handled axe in his belt, his traps on his arm, and his gun against his shoulder, he walked far up Plum Creek, setting up traps for muskrat and mink and otter and fox. Well, I mean, that's pretty. He's got like a fish trap and a animal trap and a thing and a gun and a net and an axe. He's ready for everything. One evening at supper, Pa said he'd found a beaver meadow. Those little dams. But he did not set traps there because so few beavers were left. He had seen a fox and shot it. Oh, but missed. I love that. He's he preserves stuff. He's very cool. I mean, he could just kill a bunch of beavers because those beaver pelts are valuable. But, he did not. He left them alone. I am all out of practice hunting, he said. It's a fine place we have here, but there isn't much game. Makes a fellow think of places out west, where there are no schools for the children, Charles, said Ma. You're right, Caroline, you usually are, Pa said. Oh, listen to that wind. We'll have a storm tomorrow. He's ready to move. Again, there's like a neighbor a gazillion miles away. It's like, ooh, it's so crowded. There's hardly any game. I need to go to the middle of nowhere again. And Mom's like, not happening. But the next day was mild as spring. The air was soft and warm, and the sun shone brightly. In the middle of the morning, Pa came to the house. "Let's have an early dinner and take a walk to town this afternoon," he said to Ma. "This is too nice a day for you to stay indoors. Time enough for when winter really comes." "But the children," said Ma. "We can't take Carrie and walk so far." "Oh, shucks," Pa laughed at her. "Mary and Laura are great big girls now. They can take care of Carrie for one afternoon." "Well, of course we can, Ma," said Mary, and Laura said, "Of course we can." They watched Pa and Ma starting gaily away. Ma was so pretty in her brown and red Christmas shawl. And her brown knit hood tied under her chin, and she stepped so quickly and looked up at Pa so merrily that Laura thought she was like a bird. Then Laura swept the floor while Mary cleared the table. Mary washed the dishes, and Laura wiped them and put them in the cupboard. They put the red check cloth on the table. Now the whole long afternoon was before them, and they could do as they pleased. First, they decided to play school, of course. Mary said she must be teacher because she was older, and besides, she knew more. Laura knew that was true. So Mary was teacher, and she liked it, but Laura was soon tired of that play. "I know," Laura said. "Let's both teach Carrie her letters." They sat Carrie on a bench and held the book before her, and both did their best. But Carrie did not like it. She would not learn the letters, so they had to stop that. I think that was when I was a kid, I used to try to teach the cat to read. Yeah, Carrie, as we know, I have iced tea as well, 2 drinks. Yeah, Carrie is really young, and as we know from the books and the show, it's sort of portrayed that Carrie's not too swift. Although she grew up to work in a big claims office in the Dakotas and everything and be terribly clever. But Carrie's a child with a little slow. So no, she wasn't gonna learn no letters. She wasn't gonna do none of that. Carrie was not into book learning as a child. She got over that eventually. Yeah, Ma and Pa, despite having just yesterday, having told Laura and Mary about these blizzards that come up so fast that people got stuck coming home and their children had to burn all the furniture. I swear they just said that to them yesterday. But yeah, there they are, going for a walk into town. So they had to stop the lost cause of trying to teach Carrie letters. "Well," said Laura, "let's play keeping house." "We are keeping house," said Mary. "What is the use of playing it?" Here's that. The house was empty and still with Ma gone. Ma was so quiet and gentle that she never made any noise, but now the whole house was listening for her. Laura went outdoors for a while by herself, but she came back. The afternoon grew longer and longer. There was nothing at all to do. Even Jack walked up and down restlessly. He asked to go out, but when Laura opened the door, he would not go. He lay down and got up and walked around the room. He came to Laura and looked at her earnestly. "Oh." "What is it, Jack?" Laura asked him. "Oh." He stared hard at her, but she could not understand, and he almost howled. "Oh. Don't, Jack," Laura told him quickly. "You scare me." Dog's trying to tell her something. Jack's going, "Lassie, Timmy's in the well. Oh no, something's happening." "Is it something outdoors?" Mary wondered. Laura ran out, but on the doorstep, Jack took hold of her dress and pulled her back. Outdoors was bitter cold. Laura shut the door. "Look," she said, "the sunshine's dark. Are the grasshoppers coming back?" "Oh, not in the winter time, Goosey," said Mary. "Maybe it's rain." "Goosey yourself," Laura shot back. "It doesn't rain in the winter time." "Well, snow then. What's the difference?" Mary was angry and so was Laura. So, Goosey, apparently a popular 1800. Goosey, you goose. I'm going to start calling everyone Goosey. So they're getting annoyed. They're getting a little cabin fever. They would have gone on quarreling, but suddenly there was no sunshine. They ran to look through the bedroom window. A dark cloud with a fleecy white underside was rolling fast from the northwest. They've always got these clouds rolling in. Clouds of rain, clouds of blizzard, fire. Grasshoppers always ain't a cloud rolled in. That's like every 3 pages in this book. These clouds rolling in. Okay. Mary and Laura looked out the front window. Surely it was time for Pa and Ma to come, but they were nowhere in sight. Maybe it's a blizzard, said Mary. Like Pa told us about, said Laura. Literally yesterday. He told you about that. They looked at each other through the gray air. They were thinking of those children who froze stark stiff. Literally yesterday, he said, oh yeah, this couple went for a walk to town, and a blizzard came up, and they couldn't get home in time, and their children burned all the furniture, and they still froze to death. And now, here they've gone to the store, and there's a blizzard. It's like, Pa, think, my man. Okay. The wood box is empty, said Laura. Of course it is. Mary grabbed her. You can't, said Mary. Ma told us to stay in the house if it stormed. Laura jerked away. Mary said, besides, Jack won't let you. We've got to bring in wood before the storm gets here, Laura told her. Hurry. Now, Laura was always very aggressive. When things would happen, like I said, you have your fight or flight response. Laura was always all fight. Mary would scream and run, but things that Laura would go and dive into the herd of cattle and rescue the cat. She would do that. She would go in. So she's going in. She's like, I'm going to go get the wood. And she's right. In this case, she is right, because it's a blizzard. They're going to freeze. And that would be very bad. They could hear a strange sound in the wind, like a faraway screaming. They put on their shawls and pinned them under their chins with their large shawl pins. They put on their mittens. Laura was ready first. She told Jack, we've got to bring in wood, Jack. He seemed to understand. He went out with her and stayed close at her heels. The wind was colder than icicles. Laura ran to the wood pile, piled up a big armful of wood, and ran back with Jack behind her. She could not open the door while she held the wood. Mary opened it for her. Good. Mary, get with the program, Mary. Come on, here. Then they did not know what to do. The cloud was coming swiftly, and they must both bring in wood before the storm got there. They could not open the door with their arms full of wood. They could not leave the door open and let the cold come in. I can open the door. Excuse me, as it says here. I can open the door, said Carrie. Oh, if you recall a few chapters ago, Christmas said, Tandy! Tandy! I can't open the door, said Carrie. Baby Carrie. I said, that door. Okay. No, you can't, Mary said. I can do. That's what it says. I can do, said Carrie. We love Carrie. For the record, Rachel and Robin Greenbush can talk. They can talk now. Really, they can. I can do, said Carrie. And she reached up both hands and she turned the doorknob. She could do it. Carrie was big enough to open the door. Laura and Mary hurried fast, bringing in wood. Carrie opened the door when they came to it, and she shut it behind them. Mary could carry larger armfuls, but Laura was quicker. They filled the wood box before it began to snow. Whew! The snow came suddenly with a whirling blast, and it was a small, hard grains like sand. It stung Laura's face where it struck. When Carrie opened the door, it swirled into the house in a white cloud. Laura and Mary forgot that Ma had told them to stay in the house when it stormed. They forgot everything but bringing in wood. They ran frantically back and forth, bringing each time all the wood they could stagger under. They piled wood around the wood box and around the stove. They piled it against the wall. They made the piles higher and bigger. Bang! They banged the door. They ran to the wood pile. Clop, clop, clop! They stacked the wood on their arms. They ran to the door. Bump! It went open, and bang! They back-bumped it shut. And thumpity-thud, thump! Thumpity-thud, thump! They flung down the wood and ran back outdoors to the woodpile and, panting, back again. Yes. They could hardly see the woodpile in the swirling whiteness. Snow was driven all in among the wood. They could hardly see the house, and Jack was a dark blob hurrying beside them. The hard snow scoured their faces. Laura's arms ached and her chest panted, and all the time she thought, oh, where is Pa? Where is Ma? And she felt, hurry, hurry. She heard the wind screeching. This is actually kind of exciting. This is very exciting. Ooh, blizzard, wood. Baby Carrie can open a door. I'm impressed. Candy. Mmm. Amazing. Screeching. So the woodpile was gone. Mary took a few sticks, Laura took a few sticks, and there were no more. They ran to the door together, and Laura opened it, and Jack bounded in. Carrie was at the front window, clapping her hands and squealing. Laura dropped her sticks of wood and turned just in time to see Pa and Ma burst running out of the whirling whiteness of snow. Okay, they did run home. Pa was holding Ma's hand and pulling to help her run. They burst into the house and slammed the door and stood panting, covered with snow. No one said anything, while Pa and Ma looked at Laura and Mary, who stood all snowy in shawls and mittens. At last, Mary said in a small voice, We did go out in the storm, Ma. We forgot. Laura's head bowed down and she said, We didn't want to burn up the furniture, Pa, and freeze stark stiff. Oh. Well, I'll be darned, said Pa, if they didn't move the whole wood pile in. All the wood I cut to last a couple of weeks. There, piled up in the house, was the whole wood pile. Melted snow was leaking out of it and spreading in puddles. A wet path went to the door where snow lay unmelted. Then Pa's great laugh rang out, and Ma's gentle smile shone warm on Mary and Laura. They knew they were forgiven for disobeying because they had been wise to bring in wood, though perhaps not quite so much wood. They brought in like 8 weeks worth of wood. Sometime soon, they would be old enough not to make any mistakes, and then they could always decide what to do. They would not have to obey Pa and Ma anymore. Now again, like I keep saying about these books, there is a whole grown-up level, ha-ha, humor going here. Someday soon, they would be old enough to not make any mistakes, and then they could always decide what to do. Ha 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 ha. See, this is a joke that Laura snuck in here because all of us grown-ups know, is there some age that we get to where we are actually old enough that we never make any mistakes? Like, nothing ever goes wrong? There's no oops. No, yes. One day you turn 25 or 30 and you go, I'm done. And nothing ever, like, goes upside down and you make a mistake. No. And you always know what to do. Yes, you can totally figure out what to do by yourself, because that totally happens when you grow up. Yes, that does not happen. And they would not need, yes, and many people still need to call their mom and pa, because they're like, yeah, I'm 58, and I'm still like, what am I doing? Wait, is that, yeah, not a clue. They bustled to take Ma's shawl and hood and brush the snow from them and hang them up to dry. Pa hurried to the stable to do the chores before the storm grew worse. Then, while Ma rested, they stacked the wood neatly as she told them, and they swept and mopped the floor. The house was neat and cozy again. The tea kettle hummed. The fire shone brightly from the draught above the stove hearth. Snow swished against the windows. Pa came in. Here is the little milk I could get here with. The wind blew it up out of the pail. Caroline, this is a terrible storm. I couldn't see an inch, and the wind comes from all directions at once. I thought I was in the path, but I couldn't see the house, and well, I just barely bumped against the corner. Another foot to the left, and I never would have got in. Charles, Ma said. Nothing to be scared about now, said Pa, but if we hadn't run all the way from town and beat this storm here... Then his eyes twinkled. He rumpled Mary's hair and pulled Laura's ear. I'm glad all this wood is in the house, too, he said. So what Pa just said was, okay, initially they were like, no, you did not need to bring in 4 freaking months of wood. You're crazy. You brought in the whole wood pile. That was for weeks. That was like for a couple of months. That was like enough wood for cooking and heating for like months. We were thinking maybe you'd have some wood, like a few days worth would be smart. But they had told them about children burning up all the furniture and still freezing to death. Oh, quite rightly, Laura and Mary just brought it all in and stopped to count. And so initially their parents went, oh, you brought in all the wood. And then he almost this close, got stuck in the blizzard just coming from the barn. And it kind of sunk in. When they ran home, it was just starting. They, like, probably in town went, oh, look at the cloud, and started running, hauling, before the first flake fell, which is why they made it back in time before anything horrible happened. But as he said, had we not run all the way home, had they been slower, had they not turned around and gotten out of town as soon as they saw that there was a cloud coming, had they stayed and gotten snowed in town, well, in fact, it would have been as bad as for those kids who burned up the furniture and froze to death. And that has now dawned on Pa. And he's like, okay, like, well, these kids, we don't know how long it would have taken. And he's now realizing how incredibly dangerous it was and goes, well, those children who, and Ma's going, Charles, with the death stories, stop with the death stories, Charles. You're frightening the children again. And he said, I'm glad there was all that wood in the house. Because now it's like, had they not run, we don't know how long Laura and Mary and Carrie would have been snowed in. And so they might well have needed every single log. Prairie winter. Baby Carrie. No, candy. Spilling milk on myself. Prairie winter. Well, it clearly is. I have a tag on my button. It is Prairie winter. Am I going to read this one? Yes, it's a short one. Prairie winter. Now it's very winter. Is it going to be Christmas again? I can't keep track. Didn't we just have Christmas? I'm so confused. Timelines. Next day, the storm was even worse. It could not be seen through the windows, for snow swished so thickly against them that the glass was like white glass. All around the house, the wind was howling. When Pa started to the stable, snow whirled thick into the lean-to, and outdoors was a wall of whiteness. He took down a coil of rope from a nail in the lean-to. I'm afraid to try without something to guide me back, he said. With this rope tied to the far end of the clothesline, I ought to reach the stable. So, I've seen this on the show. They did this. They put a rope. You have to do this when it's that bad. You gotta run a rope from the house to the barn so you can find your way through the whole thing here. With this rope, I should be able to reach the stable. They waited frightened until Pa came back. The wind had taken almost all the milk out of the pail, and Pa had to thaw by the stove before he could talk. He had felt his way along the clothesline, fastened the lean-to, till he came to the clothesline post. Then he tied an end of the rope to the post and went on, unwinding the rope from his arm as he went. He could not see anything but the whirling snow. Suddenly, something hit him, and it was the stable wall. He walked into the barn. He felt along it till he came to the door, and there he fastened the end of the rope. So he did the chores and came back, holding on to the rope. All day the storm lasted. The windows were white, and the wind never stopped howling and screaming. It was pleasant in the warm house. Laura and Mary did their lessons, and Pa played the fiddle when Ma rocked and knitted, and bean soup simmered on the stove. All night the storm lasted, and all the next day. Firelight danced out of the stove's draft, and Pa told stories and played the fiddle. That sounds good. Next morning, it was going to go on like this, and the next morning, and the next morning. Next morning, the wind was only whizzing, and the sun shone. Through the window, Laura saw snow scuttling before the wind in fast white swirls over the ground. The whole world looked like Plum Creek foaming in flood, only the flood was snow. Even the sunshine was bitter cold. That's going to happen this weekend, you know. There's a whole chunk of the United States, all the whole, like, northeast, of a polar vortex, which sounds horrifying. That's what's going to happen. They're saying Maine and even parts of Massachusetts. It's going to be like this. A huge blizzard. Burr. Well, I guess the storm is over, said Pa. If I can get down tomorrow, I'm going to lay in a supply of food. That doesn't sound very safe. Next day, the snow was in drifts on the ground. The wind blew only a smoke of snow up on the sides, off the tops of the drifts. Pa drove to town and brought back big sacks of cornmeal, flour, sugar, and beans. It was enough food to last a long time. Okay, he took the car. He took the wagon. Good, that's smart. Seems strange to have to figure where meat's coming from, Pa said. In Wisconsin, we always had plenty of bear meat and venison. Bear meat, and venison, And in Indian territory, there were deer and antelope, jackrabbits, turkeys, and geese, all the meat a man could want. Here, they're only little cottontail rabbits. We will have to plan ahead and raise meat, said Ma. Think how easy it will be to fatten our own meat when we can raise much fields of grain for feed. She's rather optimistic. Yes, Pa said. Next year we will raise a wheat crop, surely. Don't call me Shirley. Next day another blizzard came. Again, that low, dark cloud rolled swiftly up from the northwest till it blotted out the sun and covered the whole sky, and the wind went howling and shrieking, whirling snow until nothing could be seen but a blur of whiteness. That's a polar vortex for sure. Pa followed the rope to the stable and back. Ma cooked and cleaned and mended and helped Mary and Laura with their lessons. They did the dishes, made their bed and swept the floors, kept their hands and faces clean, and neatly braided their hair. They studied their books and played with Carrie and Jack. They drew pictures in their slate and taught Carrie to make her ABCs. That must have taken days. Sure. Mary was still sewing 9-patch blocks. Now Laura started a bear's track quilt. It was harder than a 9-patch because there were bias seams, very hard to make smooth. Each seam must be exactly right before Ma would let her make another, and often Laura worked several days on one short seam. Now, I am not a quilter. I don't know. Nothing. I can sew on a button. And I can fix tears and things so you can't even tell. But and now, my late mother-in-law, Bob's mom, awesome. Was she a quilter? So, quilty. My grandmother did some quilting. So, but I do not know what a bear's track quilt is. I bet people who are on here totally know what a bear's track. I know about like the 9-square thing, the 9-patch. But a bear track, somebody knows what that is, I'm sure. So there you are. I know they're difficult. And these are little girls making this stuff. So they were busy all day long. All the days ran together with blizzard after blizzard. No sooner did one blizzard end with a day of cold sunshine than another began. Horrible. On the sunny day, Pa worked quickly, chopping more wood, visiting his traps, pitching hay from the snowy stacks into the stable. Even though the sunny day was not Monday, Ma washed the clothes and hung them on the clothesline to freeze dry. Freeze dry. Okay, imagine this. Rinse out a few things, your underwear, whatnot. Hang it on a line till it freezes. Your clothes are freeze dried. So then you'd have to bring them clack, your hard frozen clothes into the house and have that. That's horrible. Okay, freeze drying the clothes. That can't be any good. That day, there were no lessons. Laura and Mary and Carrie bundled stiff in their thick wraps. They could play outdoors in the sunshine. Next day, another blizzard came. But Pa and Ma had everything ready for it. If the sunny day were Sunday, they could hear the church bell. Clear and sweet it rang through the cold, and they all stood outdoors and listened. They could not go to Sunday school. A blizzard might come before they could reach home. Yeah, hello. But every Sunday, they had a little Sunday school of their own. Laura and Mary repeated their Bible verses. Ma read a Bible story and a psalm. Then Pa played hymns on the fiddle, and they all sang. They sang, and I don't know the tune to this. Like I said, hey, on Little House in the Prairie, we had like 4 hymns. And you know them all. Okay, let's see. What hymns do we have in Little House? We had Onward, Christian Soldiers. We Bring in the Thieves. Here, Pa's got one I do not know. When gloomy clouds across the sky cast shadows o'er the land, bright rays of hope illume my path, for Jesus holds my hand. That's very nice. I don't know that one. Every Sunday, Pa played and they sang, Sweet Sabbath School, more dear to me than fairest palace dome. My heart o'erturns with joy to thee, my own dear Sabbath home. Aw, I don't know those. On the Prairie, we had, how many hymns? We had Onward, Christian Soldiers. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before, let the royal... Yeah, and then we had, bringing in the sheaves, we shall come rejoicing, bringing in the sheaves. Do you know that if you have a hymnal, you can look this up, There's like a bazillion verses to All Our Christian Soldiers of Bringing the Sheaves. It's like 1,000,000 verses. And sometimes I'm sitting in the church scenes because it would go on and on and on. What we would often do is like shoot, like, okay, there's a scene in church, and then the next week they come in, and then there was a big drama with like Reverend Alden. So we just shoot those like back to back. So we'd be in that church all day. And then when you make TV shows, you may know, things, they do them over and over again. They do different camera angles. They do more than one take. They do this take, they do that take. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, that wasn't quite right. Let's do it again. And then they go, okay, that was great, but now we need to film it from this side. So you do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then sometimes you have to kind of hang out because they need to do lighting. Now, sometimes for lighting, if you're standing, they'll say, go sit down, go to school, go get a coffee, and they have the B team, your stand-ins come in and they stand in your spot and they light around them and hold up the light meter and stuff. But in the church, they just said, oh, just sit there. And so we'd all just kind of hang out and they'd fix the lighting camera. So you could be on that pew in church for just years, hours, days, forever. And so we'd get a little bored. And I'd start flipping through and I started reading. At one point, I can't do it now, I actually memorized all of the verses to Onward Christian Soldiers and Bringing in the Sheaves. Seriously, I'm like that crazy. Cannot remember them now. But I did when I was a kid. I literally memorized all of them. I did like some of the others. We had Bringing in the Sheaves, Onward Christian Soldiers every week. And then we had Ring the Bells of Heaven. That was, I liked that. We sang it over and over again in that episode. I think we only sang it once or maybe in 2 episodes. But ring the bells of heaven, there is joy today, for a soul returning from the wild. See the Father leads him out upon the way, welcoming his weary, something like, oh, go tell it, we did Go Tell It on the Mountain, yes. So we did that one. Take It to the Lord in Prayer. Oh, that was it was the episode about gossip. And we had a hymn that they specially dug up out of the hymnal called Take It to the Lord in Prayer. Cannot remember that one at all. Well, ring the bells of heaven. That was probably when we got the bell on the show. I don't know. I gotta go look this stuff up. I didn't keep track of these things. And then, of course, when Hester Sue's character joined the show, which was the fabulous, very, very famous pop singer, Ketty Lester, who's still alive. She's awesome. Ketty Lester had a huge hit called Love Letters Straight from the Heart, and Ketty Lester was amazing. And she joined the show, so then we got lots and lots and lots of songs. Oh, she sang Rock of Ages. Oh, she was amazing. And she could sing better than anybody, and we didn't even try. When it was time for her to sing, we all just kind of, yeah, we'll just be here and let her do the solo. But there you are. So, Little House on the Prairie, great place to learn hymns. Learned way more hymns on Little House than I did like at church. It's great. What a Friend We Have in Jesus. You're so good. You're naming them. Yes, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. That was a big one. And the thing is, when you heard songs on Little House, it was TV. So 2 things had to be true about the song. One, it had to be conceivably known by Laura Ingalls from that time period, from the late 1800s. It couldn't be from the 1920s because they wouldn't have been singing it in Walnut Grove. So they tried to go, was this him before 1874? Yes, it was. Okay, great. So trying to keep them oldie-timey, that they were in the right era. And then the other one, there were some we know that Laura knew, and then there were ones that were just guessing, but actually probably maybe. We don't know exactly which hymns they sang in the church in Walnut Grove or in the church in South Dakota. So sometimes they went, well, that was popular then. But the other one was any song that you heard, like at the stances, public domain. They were not about to pay the rights for anything, and that's why you heard like a lot of Turkey in the Straw, Turkey in the Straw, and of course the Mr. Edwards song, Old Dan Tucker, and you'd hear a lot of these kind of songs, and it was like, oh, did we just have that song? Yes, because that's what we can afford, is these songs. And then we had our own music. We had the composer David Rose, who was amazing, who did the music for Bonanza, and also created, did you know, the composer composed all the music, la 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 la, who did all of the Little House on the Prairie music, did the Bonanza music, did a bunch of music was married to Judy Garland at one point. Yes, David Rose. It gets all very complicated. But he also wrote a song called The Stripper. You've all heard it in movies and comedy sketches when the music goes da 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 da. That music, yes, you all know. That's called The Stripper and was composed by David Rose, the same guy who wrote do 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 do. Do 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 dee da da dee. Same dude. It's amazing. It's amazing. So here, I'm gonna fix my hair. But yes, indeed. David Rose is amazing, and he did everything. So Google him. Look up David Rose. Your mind will be blown. And he would make up original music. So sometimes we'd have music like that music box. That was just David Rose would just come up with this stuff. So that's how we managed. But that's why we only had like 4 hymns in 9 years. Well, thank you. This was so much fun. I need to get a move on because, like I said, I got to get ready. Just tomorrow. They added some more tickets. Go look on stageit.com, Alison Arngrim, or spincyclenyc.com, and there's a couple more tickets available to sit in your living room and watch me tomorrow night. That's gonna be crazy, and I gotta get ready and do that. So tomorrow, 1:30 reading. I don't know, I might be early because I gotta get stuff done for this thing tomorrow, which is like 5 o'clock my time, 8 o'clock New York time. So I might do the reading early on Saturday. I'll put up a thing if I change the time. I warn you, okay. And in the meantime, I'm gonna finish these cookies and get ready for my show. So take care and wash your hands. And be good little bonnet heads. And bonnets are on their way. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.